A customer will call in and say, hey, I think I have ants. Can you send someone out? We train our inside sales staff to really investigate, ask questions, get photos, get pictures, and they can diagnose issues really well over the phone. Just sell the stinking thing over the phone.
Yeah. The one exception to that I would see that we'll get out there, we'll do a free inspection. I've got the confidence to sign them up, and then we'll just increase the cost of the service to include the time spent on the inspection.
As long as it pencils out dollars and cents wise, I'm on board with this. So
because if it don't make dollars, man, then it don't make sense.
Welcome to the Bug Bucks podcast, a podcast designed to help you become a bug money millionaire. Today's episode is brought to you by Bug Bucks Plus, the #1 course designed to help you start and grow your pest control company. I'm your host, Eric Bassett, and I've got my brand new co-host with me, Jake Klaus. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on?
Dude, not too much. Snowing like crazy here. I hear it's snowing like crazy in your neck of the woods too.
Yep, it is. It's going to be a blizzard this weekend, and expecting everything to be shut down until like Tuesday morning.
Yeah, dude, I am. I think snow is cool. I'm not a cold weather guy. I prefer summer. Dry, hot summers are great.
Yes.
But the first couple, like if it's going to snow, it might as well just go full send snow.
Full send. I mean? Yep. If it's going to snow, I prefer to just get shut in. We just went to Costco, did our pre-blizzard shut-in Costco run, so we're set.
Nice. Very nice. Sweet.
Yep.
All right. Well, we got an awesome topic for you guys today, but before we dive into that, just want to remind everybody listening, the best way to receive new episodes is by subscribing to our show on your preferred podcast platform like Apple, Google, Audible, or Spotify. If you love the show, please leave us a rating and a review. And one last reminder, if you haven't joined our Facebook group, go to Bug Bucks, that is BUGBUX. We've got over 3,800 other pest control owners. We just hit 3,800.
Woohoo!
And it's awesome. Those guys are they're waiting to connect with you and share their thoughts. That's also the best way for you guys to share your feedback on our show and have your questions highlighted and discussed here on the podcast. So make sure you find us on Facebook and join the group. Speaking of the Facebook group, I was in the Facebook group the other day, and I'm just kind of scrolling, looking at some of the questions that guys are posting. And a guy named Destin Jones posted kind of a scenario that he had with some customers. And his question ended up being surrounding customers rescheduling. He said that a lot of customers were rescheduling because they were sick, right? And I'm thinking to myself, that's odd. Like, are all these customers expecting him to come inside and do interior treatments every time? So I commented and I said, hey, dude, what's the expectation for interior treatments? And he explained that they did have the expectation to do inside treatments every single time. And it was because those customers were from an acquisition that he had where the previous owner had set that expectation, right? So now he's working against this scenario.
Okay.
And it made me think
the difference in treatment philosophy between him and the company he acquired. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that we should do an episode about being careful what expectations you set and avoiding setting the wrong expectations. So you and I talked a little bit before here. We've got our list of stuff. And I'm going to kind of roll through these. We'll give a couple quick thoughts on each of these. I mean, a lot of the stuff we could really dive into like an episode apiece, but we're just going to give you guys a few things. If you want us to do full episodes on this, we can definitely help. But we're going to talk about the issue, the impact on the business, and then maybe some ways to avoid the issue, or climb out of the pit if you're already in there. So,
excellent.
Let's knock this thing out. All right.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and just start with interior treatments on every regular service. Setting the expectation that not only do you do the outside of the house, but you always do the inside of the house too. I'll let you kind of take off, and then I'll share some thoughts. What are you thinking, Jake?
So my first thought is why? Why are you treating the inside of the house at every service? And maybe what's our guy's name? Destin. Yep. Destin. Yeah. Okay. So this is a situation that Destin inherited from a company that he acquired. I'm hearing that correct?
Yep.
So this may not be Destin's treatment philosophy, and it sounds like it's not, because he's wondering, how do I get around this? Mm-hmm. So just from a effective pest control perspective, treating the interior of the house at every service I don't know why that would be required. Unless it's a follow up for fleas or bed bugs or something like that, but to be scheduled regular interior maintenance once a quarter or bi-monthly, shoot, man, that I just don't see how science wise that tracks.
Yeah, and it's difficult, I mean, and for the guys listening, you guys know that me and Jake are both associate certified entomologists. And, a big part of getting that accreditation has to do with knowing integrated pest management, right? IPM.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that maybe the guy that he inherited these accounts from probably had concerns about the value that he was bringing to the table,
Oh, yeah.
where he's thinking, oh man, and you and I were talking about this before, he's thinking, oh, from what I'm charging, I don't want these people just to see me come and go, treat the outside, and then second guess the value and the price they're paying, right?
I have to do a whole bunch of stuff each time so that they think that they're getting what they pay for.
Exactly. Instead of sitting the customer down and saying, hey, here's the most effective way for me to solve your pest issue. And your particular issue is customized based on science, right? And your particular issue at hand. So
exactly,
I feel bad for Destin because it sucks to, inherit, like you said, those kinds of situations.
Yeah.
But I mean, just off the top of my head, the logistical problem that you have with interior treatments, like scheduling interior treatments in general, trying to schedule an entire customer base or a huge part of a customer base that always has interior
around
treatment.
all of their individual schedules. Ooh,
gives me
that sounds like a logistical nightmare.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, not a good time there. And maybe some pointers for you guys listening. If you're in the hole with this, if for some weird reason you set this expectation already and you're trying to get out of it, it's hard to kind of just have to pull the Band-Aid off. I would start with the service notifications, where instead of just sending out a standard service notification that says, hey, you have an upcoming service, you kind of create a new expectation by saying, hey, so-and-so, this is a reminder for your upcoming exterior only service. If you have any questions or if you need or want the interior treated, please contact our office at this phone number. Thanks for being a customer. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And you slowly start to remind people hey, this really isn't the way that it works. And if they call in, if they have questions, then you can handle it then.
Right. Yeah. Well, so you have to consider that in a pest control, well, I guess in any company, right, any service-based industry, there's really two cultures at play. There's the culture that you have inside your company, like your office staff, your service staff, et cetera, et cetera. But there's also a culture that you have with your customer base.
Yeah.
So what Destin's experiencing here is really a culture issue with his customer base, where there's a disconnect philosophically with how pest control is supposed to be done with this certain group of customers. So, I mean, there's a couple of ways to handle it that I would think right off the bat. Eric hit the nail on the head with that one. So for me, it depends on how many customers we're talking about. Are we talking about 25 customers? If it's 25 customers, then I would just make that an individual conversation with each person. If you're talking about 100 customers or a couple hundred customers or several hundred customers, then what I would do is, number one, confidence is king. And if you position yourself as the pest control expert with these customers, they're going to follow your lead, right? So if it's several hundred customers or more customers than it really makes sense to have a one-on-one conversation with, what I do is create like a postcard on, I don't know, can I say Vistaprint? They're not a vendor, so I don't know if I should say anybody's name specifically, but
I've said it before.
But go on to like a Vistaprint type of website, create a postcard, put your picture on it, et cetera, and just spell it out on the postcard. Hey, looking forward to a new year. 2024 is going to be awesome. Thanks for choosing us as your pest control experts. Remember, here are a few key things regarding pest control. Typically, it's an exterior only service. Treating interior is not necessary at every service. We would like to treat the inside of your home at least once a year, but really we only want to do the inside when you have a specific situation that's happening inside. Then you send that out. You can link your CSV file to the postcard and Vistaprint. You send it out, and all of a sudden now all of your customers have all of this info. So now when they get the reminder call, like Eric was saying, it's just reinforcing what they already saw on the postcard. And you can also send the same postcard information in an email to all the customers that way. So they're getting it 3 different places: postcard, email, and that way. It'll cost a little bit of money, but down the road, the amount of the opportunity cost that you save from having to do the interior of all these customers, I think it more than makes up for it.
Oh, guaranteed. Right. And I like that you kind of rope that into, kind of like another letter that you would send out just to kind of keep your customers up to date anyway. It's kind of like a newsletter format, loyal customer format,
Yep.
And so it's not like you're putting a whole lot of focus on it, which you might want to avoid. But you're adding it into other information like it's a standard part of your practice, which is the whole idea, right? Changing it to become more of a standard part. So,
well, and on top of that too, just the one other caveat is that the more communication you have with the customer base, the more loyal they become with you. So I've even known of companies that that they'll go out and they'll buy a letter folding machine.
Oh, yes.
And they'll print off the letter themselves. They'll put it through the folding machine, stuff them in the envelopes, and then they print off the CSV file onto the sticky labels, and they'll label it themselves. It'll save you a ton of money. There's the initial cost up front of getting the machine, but you can send a note anytime you want, and all it's going to cost you is paper, envelopes, and stamps.
Side note, they have machines too that will take samples of your handwriting, and then you can put the pen in the machine and it'll write the letters for you. No joke.
Really?
That's a thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that probably wouldn't work for all of us.
No, I mean,
you want people to be able to read the letter.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, and we kind of touched on this a little bit. When it comes to service notifications, right? The notifications that you're sending out. There's a lot of companies that will talk about doing like 2-week notifications. They'll be like, oh yeah, we send notifications 2 weeks out. That way the customer has plenty of notice, right? Or a week out, or 3 days, or whatever the situation is. And what's tough about that is that as soon as you send a notification out that you are going to be at a customer's house on a certain day, that's an expectation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if something happens logistically to those routes, whether it's new customers coming in or customers need to move or a technician calling out sick or whatever the situation is, you're in a little bit of a pickle, right?
Yeah.
Because now you have to make adjustments and still stay to those expectations, because the worst thing you can do is set the expectation and then come back and have to reschedule it. So, at Natura, we do a 24-hour notice, which, still allows those customers some time, right, to prepare. And if they need something different, they can call. But it gives us the best flexibility, and it kind of overlaps where the customer still gets notice.
Yeah.
Right. So, service notifications.
2 weeks, if you guys are listening
crazy.
It seems like it's just long enough for the customer to forget that you're coming out. To be surprised. Oh, I guess I did. When was that? When did I get that call? Was that a month ago? A year ago? How long ago was it?
I guess you guys did send me that email, maybe. And it's funny, like a lot of these kind of come down to like confidence. And you said it, right? Confidence is king. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So some of these companies that are like really worried, they're like, oh, I don't want to step on any toes. I want to be careful with always having enough value. And I got to be careful sending out notifications, like I don't want to inconvenience anybody. And they kind of put themselves into all these logistical pickles with expectations like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of setting the standard and doing it the right way. And like you said, being confident, communicating with your customers, and the more that you do that, the easier it is to maintain those standards.
Yep. I agree.
Let's see what else we got.
Cha-ching. Next.
Here's a fun one. Raising prices, like creating the expectation that you'll never raise your price. What are your thoughts on this one?
Oh, man. Okay. Well, when we first started the business a decade ago, we had this idea that we're going to do a price lock guarantee. Remember that? Price lock guarantee. We're never going to raise the price. Well, okay, from 2013 to 2017, maybe that made sense. But when COVID hit and and the price of everything doubled or tripled. I mean, I went into a Subway sandwich shop during COVID, and a Philly cheesesteak sandwich was $20. It was like $19 and change. But I turned right around and walked straight out of there. I'm not paying $20 for a sandwich at Subway. Are you kidding me? So doing a price lock guarantee. Okay, I have two thoughts on this. I'm just going to share real quick. Number one, a price lock guarantee is dangerous because it creates this expectation that you're never going to raise your prices, obviously, which is what the price lock guarantee says. But you don't control the market. You don't control the cost of product, the cost of transportation. You don't control the cost. Like here in Washington State and lots of states, there's a minimum wage requirement that's so high that a lot of businesses can't pay it. That's why you're ordering your cheeseburger at a kiosk when you walk into a McDonald's, right? So that's the first problem. The second problem with a price lock guarantee is that it doesn't leave you room to make adjustments for the growth of your company. So as your company grows, things are going to get more expensive just innately. You've got to hire more technicians, more office staff, get a bigger building, more vehicles, and so on and so forth. And I guess just to wrap up my thought on this, nobody is expecting you to price lock your prices. That's a thing that you're doing probably out of desperation of wanting to create this perfect environment where your customers never want to leave you, right? You don't have to do that. If you've got good customer communication, you provide a valuable service, you don't have to use desperation measures like price lock guarantees.
Yep. And I this is one of those gimmicky things that I know was created by a salesman at some point in time, right?
Oh, for sure.
Because you go out and you talk to some customer and you're like, oh, you use whatever company, whatever service. And they're like, yeah, they just raised my prices. And you think, aha, if I made a part of my offering that was never raising my price, then this would be great. My customers would love me forever. And I know it was made by a salesman because it definitely wasn't made by a chief financial officer of the business or
right.
a chief marketing officer of the business,
Yep.
So it's one of those situations, and circling back to what you said about having the same philosophies with customers, right? Having a difference in philosophy. If you communicate with your customers and, you said, hey, in order to maintain the value that you've grown to love with my service and the good products and the good people that we have hired here, every now and again, we're going to raise our price by a few percentage. And that's just to make sure that we can keep delivering on exactly what you love, right? Every customer, I would hope at least every customer you want will agree with you there, right?
Yep.
And, obviously we've done price increases multiple times since we got out of the price lock guarantee stage.
Right. Yeah, you have to. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a tough Band-Aid to pull off. But in the letter that we send out, the postcards and letters that we send out, that's the exact communication that we do, right? Hey, in order to maintain the value of the service that you've come to grow and love, we're raising our price by X%. And this is what you're going to get from that, right? Right products, the right people, expertise, so on and so forth. And we've had less than 1% cancel when we do that.
Well, the thing is the people that do cancel, they're probably the people that when you look through the notes on their account, you're like, oh, this customer is kind of a pain in the butt,
Yeah.
So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone there. And, in the letter that you send out, whether it's a postcard or a letter or email or whatever, just communicate that it was a bit of a moral dilemma for you because that you promised a price lock guarantee. But here we are, a 2x4 costs $25 at Home Depot. Who's not going to understand that the company that provides services for me has to raise their prices? So if you communicate that in the letter, hey, this has been a really tough decision for us. We've wrestled with this, but like Eric said, to fill in the blank, in order to keep our service at the quality level that it is, we yada, yada, yada.
Yep. Yeah. So, move on to this next one over here. Oh, this is a loaded one. Okay. Free inspections, free 50 free cost of inspections. So I'm just going to preface and then I'll throw this over to Jake. There's a lot of different types of inspections that you could be doing and maybe free applies to some, definitely probably doesn't apply to other ones. But Jake, I'm going to let you kind of take a swing at this first and then I'll come back around with some thoughts.
All right. So again, I think that the free inspection is kind of a Hail Mary lob at getting people to call in, right? And hoping that that's a kind of like a hook with bait to sink, get people to say, oh, free inspection, I can get out there. And once we get out there, then we'll get them, right? So in my mind, because we do WDO inspections for wood destroying organisms, and we do two different types of WDO inspections. One's a specific, one's a complete. We have to do those for people that are doing VA refinance. They need an MPMA 33 form saying that, there's no termites or whatever. So there's two types of inspections, really, I guess. There's an inspection where it's an actual inspection, where you got a technician that's probably going to have to put on a Tyvek suit and a respirator and go into a crawl space and swim around in someone's crawl space looking for mud tubes or holes in the wood or frass or whatever, or bed bugs or fleas or whatever. In any event, chances are it's not just going in to close a sale, right? So in my mind, you should be charging for those. And if the customer agrees to the recommendation that comes out of that inspection, then take a discount off of the service. You paid for the inspection, we'll do a discount off the service. If you're going to do a quote unquote free inspection, meaning Mrs. Johnson calls in and says, I think that I have ants and I saw that your truck says free inspection. Will you come out to do a free inspection? Then sure, go out and do a free inspection. And in my years of selling door to door, I know that if I get inside a customer's house, if I break that front door threshold, there is a 99.9% chance that I'm walking out of that house with a signed contract and a credit card number. So if you have that kind of confidence, and the only kind of inspection that you're doing is going to check on Mrs. Jones's ants in her kitchen, then by all means do that. But if you offer any other kind of inspection that requires something to the depth and level of like a WDO inspection or a bed bug inspection, then I personally, I wouldn't advertise that as a free inspection.
Exactly. Yeah. And just like you said, it's kind of that Hail Mary. It's a loss leader, is what these free inspections are. You take a loss and then it leads to additional business later on. Right. And of course, if you do the math, then it works out over the long term. But some of the logistics of that can be a little bit of a pain. If you're talking like a sole proprietor who has room in his schedule to just go out and do bids and inspections, it's like, oh, well, might as well. Right. Yep. But if you don't have that and you have technicians on full routes and you don't have just salesmen around, and you're paying them, right? And you have a full inside sales staff who could otherwise sell this, it's like, hey, you really need to try to focus in on selling that over the phone. And in most situations, I think with technology nowadays, like a customer will call in and say, hey, I think I have ants. Can you send someone out? We train our inside sales staff to really investigate, ask questions, get photos, get pictures, and they can diagnose issues really well over the phone and then just sell it, right? Just sell the stinking thing over the phone.
Yeah. The one exception to that I would see is if the intention is that we'll get out there, we'll do a free inspection. I've got the confidence to sign them up, and then we'll just increase the cost of the service to include the time spent on the inspection. Yeah. I can see that. That makes sense. That makes sense.
As long as it pencils out dollars and cents wise, I'm on board with this. So
because if it don't make dollars, man, then it don't make sense.
Exactly. So
right.
All right. Moving on. Ooh, this is one of my favorite ones. Okay. This is having issues with collecting payment. Like, imagine like having problems with setting up auto pay, or getting payment information before the technician goes out there. Right.
Okay.
So, I've worked with a few different pest control companies who, like, we look at their collections percentage and it's kind of atrocious. And the first question I have is, let's look at your sales process, right? Let's take a peek and see how many of these new customers coming in are getting put on auto pay, and how many of those have payment information before the technician goes out. And usually there's a big problem with that. If you can't get payment information ahead of time, that usually leads to collection issues later on. And it has always confused me why it seems to be an issue with our industry. And obviously I spend most of my time in our industry, so maybe this is a problem with industries across the board. But like, every time I go out and buy something or sign up for a service and they ask me for a credit card comes out and I just put my payment information on, and I don't question that. So it seems weird that we do it. It bugs me.
So is this, they're having a hard time getting card payment information because they have an outside sales team that's closing sales outside, and they're saying, oh, we'll just get the card number when my technician arrives, or the office staff isn't taking card information from incoming calls?
I think that's the problem. I think the issue is that during the sales process, and you've seen this before with door-to-door guys, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
During the sales process, they're like, okay, don't want to mess this up. Like, got to be careful asking for the guy's credit card info, because obviously we know that when you get payment information, that solidifies the deal, right? That's when someone is truly saying, I want to pay for this. Here's my credit card info. Yeah. And so there's this weird limbo area where you don't ask for their payment information and they don't give it to you, but they still commit to the appointment and you think you have a sale. If those sales go through, you're like, cool, I got it. Everything's good. Yeah. Everything is not good, my guy. You just
it's not a sale unless there's a signed contract and a credit card number.
Right? Yeah. It's like you just performed a service that we're not going to get paid for. And I always tell our office staff when I go in there, when it comes to auto pay, the only thing that's worse than not making a sale is making a sale, doing the work, and not getting paid for it.
Oh yeah.
That sucks.
Well, here are the magic words. Here are the magic words. Let me just get the card information from you so I can schedule your appointment.
Bada bing, bada boom, dude. It's not complicated.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah. Yeah. It's not and it's just like anything else. In all the years that we had sales teams, a lot of these guys are like young, single, college age guys, and so I related everything to like dating because that's kind of the idea is that these guys are supposed to be dating, and so I would relate everything to dating, and I would relate the getting the card information or getting a signed contract to like kissing your date at the end of the night, right? Like if you didn't kiss your date at the end of the night, was it really a good date? And also if you act weird about it, they're going to act weird about it. Yes. So chances are at some point or another, the sales guy or the office staff or whoever got some real hard pushback from somebody offering their credit card information. And all of a sudden in their mind, that's how everybody is about credit card information, when that's just not true. You had to experience one time, brush it off. That's not it. Just ask the question. Let me get your card information so I can schedule your appointment.
That's probably the best advice right there. Just get the information. Don't make it weird. Don't
make it weird.
Don't make it weird asking for payment information. Yeah. Okay. This is moving on to our last one. We'll get you guys out of here. This is a good one. I think this actually happens a lot more than people think. Requests from customers to technicians that end up the technician ends up doing something outside of standard operating procedures. And like even worst case scenario here, like doing something against the label, right? What are your thoughts?
For me, this is a real simple one. If it goes against the label, to me, the philosophy to this is really simple. It's better to lose a customer than lose my business.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So if and we've had this happen all the time. In fact, our service manager, who is a phenomenal guy, he's been with us for 8 years. The dude is just stellar as a service technician, as a pest control technician. He calls it the prostitute effect, where customers will be like, well, I'm paying you to do this, so I want you to do it the way that I want it to be done, right? I want you to go up on my super steep pitched tile roof in the rain, or whatever. I want you to spray imidacloprid all over my flowers, just stupid stuff that people want your technician to do.
Yep.
So I think that it's confidence and it's a simple conversation. Hey, look, I understand that that's what you would like as an expert in this field. I'm telling you that is not going to work. And that's outside of our operating procedures because it just isn't the way that pest control works. Or if it's against the label, say, look, I have to follow the law just like anybody else does. And operating outside of the law could put my business at jeopardy. I really, truly hope that you understand. But why don't you let me take a stab at solving this the way that I know how I can, and let me use my expertise. Trust me, I think that I can find a solution for this.
Yep. Yeah, and I can't agree more. And you've been in meetings with me when we've talked about standard operating procedures, and
it's one of your favorite topics.
Yeah, we were in a meeting the other day, and a topic came up, and we were listening to one of our managers talk about this, and I was making a face, like you could see me just make a face about a risky scenario, and I can't hide it. Some people are looking at me, and our manager's like, okay, well, Eric's making the face, so I think I know what the answer to this question is. But, and just like Jake said, it's better to lose a customer. It's better to lose a lot of customers, honestly, than to lose your business. And it's better to lose a customer than it is to all of a sudden open yourself up to a liability with the Department of Agriculture or some other situation that you don't want. Because, Department of Agriculture, that's personal, well, I say like professional liability with your license, right? But if you do something off label and it affects somebody's health in a serious way, right? That's a whole other type of liability, right?
Yep.
And then, if we dive into like safety, like we have a lot of standard operating procedures just for safety. Like you said, technicians going on rooftops, right?
Yep.
A lot of these guys are young and they're fit, and they think they can conquer the world, and they're bounce back like a rubber band. But I can tell you that we've had lots of injury scenarios from some of the dumbest things that are always avoidable. And when it happens, it causes a logistical nightmare, for the technician, because he's injured, right? He can't work. He's got to deal with workman's comp and everything else. Same thing for us. The whole situation just doesn't work out well for anybody. And the customer has issues too. So long story short, and Jake kind of drove this point home, it's not worth it, right? Have standard operating procedures, and train them, coach them, make sure your team understands them, and that way you guys don't run into these kinds of issues.
One last real quick thought about that. So as a business owner, you are the guardian and the protector of your business and your people. So if you have employees and your employees have families that are depending on you employing them, allowing a technician to go outside of your SOGs, well, let's say do something that's illegal against the law or dangerous or something like that. What you're essentially doing is you're putting that customer in front of your business, your family, your responsibilities, your employees and their families. So as the business owner, you really have a different kind of responsibility than as a technician. Your responsibility is to stand as the guardian, the steward, the protector of your brand, your business, and your people. So if you look at it from that perspective, I mean, nothing gets past that, right? Somebody says, "Hey, I want you to spray my rose bushes." Nope, I can't do that because I'm not going to put my people at jeopardy.
Exactly. Yeah. And I guess this is funny. This circles back to what we were talking about before when it comes to guys being scared, like not having the confidence to inform a customer about the right way to do something, and then be okay with putting their foot down and saying, I understand what you're saying, Mr. and Mrs. Customer. Let me explain kind of how this works, and let me show you how I can do this within the guidelines and within the law, right?
Exactly.
And you've taught our door-to-door salesmen and even some of our technicians kind of the process that you've used before, which I think is cool. The agree, validate question, right? It's like, hey, totally understand how that makes sense, right? You got every right to feel that way. I'd feel the same way. Let me ask you a question. You obviously want to make sure that this service is performed the most friendly and safe way it can be, right? You want to make sure that your service is performed within the law. Am I right? Well, of course I do. Okay, perfect. Let me go ahead and get this done the right way. Let me solve the problem and work within the law, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's funny how these all kind of circle that confidence bucket, and I kind of you'll probably get the reference. I feel like the technicians that struggle with being confident and they like let customers walk all over them and mess up their standard operating procedures and, and not get payment and mess up service notifications, and you can't raise your price. This is small tech energy. I'm going to call it that. Small tech energy. Small tech energy. Okay.
Yeah. You want to have big tech energy.
You want to have big tech energy, man. Yeah. Got to be confident. Got to know what you're doing. Got to be okay to put your foot down. You need big tech energy. We're gonna make T-shirts and stickers. Big tech energy. #.
I like it. That's great. Yeah. You've been watching Kardashians, haven't you?
I will not answer that question. Okay. So we're low on time. Got to get you guys out of here. Of course, we appreciate everybody listening and taking the time. Now, if you have a coworker, a manager, or an owner you feel could benefit from listening to this episode, the best way to say thank you to us is to share this episode with them. Again, this episode is brought to you by BugBucks Plus, the #1 course designed to help you start and grow your pest control company. If you haven't joined the Facebook group yet, go find the group and join. It's BugBucks, BUGBUX. Lots of information and great connections in that group. And of course, thanks again for listening in. And until next time, keep building those pest control companies.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please show your support by subscribing and leaving us a 5-star rating. Thank you. And we'll catch you on next week's episode.